elevation. That's roughly 7,000 foot change in elevation from our station down in Manitou Springs. Here at the Cop Railway, we've been open for over 130 years. We first opened all the way back in 1891. The only time we stopped taking passengers to the summit since then was between 2017 and 2021 when we did an extensive overhaul. We replaced every inch of our tracks, we refurbished our trains from the 70s, and we added 3 brand new trains. You guys are riding on one of those new trains? We call this model a 4-4. It was built in Switzerland, designed specifically to go up Pikes Peak. It's completely diesel electric, and our engines have about 500 horsepower. And our top speed today is going to be 15 miles per hour. I'm going to introduce our crew. If we all look all the way up front, we're going to see my friend Bree. Everybody say hi, Bree. Hi, Bree. Bree is our engineer. She's responsible for getting us up and down the mountain safely. She has the most important job today. My name is Quinn. Hi, everybody. Hi, Quinn. I'm just going to be yapping the whole time, but I want to point out some cool things for you. But if I tell you all to look to your left, that doesn't work at all, right? Because we're facing different directions. Folks, stage you out on that center aisle. Alright, so if it's okay with you guys, actually, I have something on this side of the car, the train car. I'm going to call this our 3-seat side because this side has 3 seats. Is that okay with y'all? Yeah, alright. Now, I don't want anyone to feel left out. So, if I'm pointing out something on the opposite side of the train than where you're sitting, you are welcome to stand up within your seating area so you can see what I'm talking about. You can get your pictures, but whatever you do, you just have to stay out of the center aisle. To move is to squeeze the black tabs, but some of them are tricky. Please stand up if you're going to pull the window down and push it back up so you don't hurt yourself. It's a cool rock. Coming up on our 2-seat side, you're going to see a really big boulder with a bush next to it. That's not it. We're going to wait for that to pass your window, and we're going to look straight across that little tiny valley just below eye level. You might see Diamond Rock. If you can't tell, we're very creative with our names around here. We've called it Diamond Rock because it looks like the diamond off the face of a playing card. Now, the cool thing about Pikes Peak is it has its very own type of rock. Diamond Rock and all these other boulders you see outside your window are Pikes Peak granite, which is a 900 million year old mixture of mica, feldspar, and quartz, which you might be able to see glittering in the sunlight. Pikes Peak granite is naturally pink in color, but down here at this low elevation, a lot of moss likes to grow on the rocks, so they look kind of blue and gray. The higher we go, the harder it is for the moss to grow, so the pinker they will get. Pikes Peak granite is also pretty fragile and be a very, very bad idea to make your countertop out of this type of granite.
Ahí es donde está el árbol de hierba. ¿No te acuerdas?
¿Estaba de nuestro lado o no?
No, de qué lado.
No tengo que quedar al lado de la vez pasada. ¿Estaba de nuestro lado la vez pasada o estaba del otro lado?
Alright, and you'll probably be able to hear the next thing before we see it. Coming up, we have a waterfall on the 2-seat side. To find this waterfall, we're all going to look down instead of across, like we did for Diamond Rock. I can hear it coming up now. That's Rosa Emma Falls. This waterfall was named after two sisters, Rosa and Emma, that lived in the area many, many years ago. Alright, my 3-seat side. Are you guys feeling left out? I got the vibe you might be. Don't you worry, we have our own waterfall coming up. And you actually have the cooler waterfall because this camera's ready at eye level on your 3-seat side is Minnehaha Falls. Minnehaha is a Lakota term for laughing or dancing waters. I see some confused faces. I said it was higher, not taller. I tricked you. We're at 8,300 feet in elevation. That's 8,000 feet higher up in Niagara Falls. Now, we are stuck on this train with each other for quite some time, so I'm going to force you guys to make some new friends today. If you're sitting next to someone you don't know, go ahead and ask them their name, where they're from, their favorite restaurant, maybe their social security number.
No me preguntes eso.
Hills. The average grade of our tracks is 16%. We're also going to experience grades going up to 26%. We have our first 25% grade coming up around this corner here. What that means is for every 100 feet of track that Miss Bree takes us, we're actually going up 25 feet in elevation. This is where I see a lot of people that weren't paying attention. Sometimes they'll accidentally start slipping out of their uphill seat and they'll land in the lap of the person across from them. That's the real reason I have you guys introduce yourselves, just to make it a little less awkward if that happens today. This specific hill is called Son of a Gun Hill. That's because back in the day when we had steam engines, we had to have a fireman on board, and his job was to shovel coal into the fire to keep that steam pressure up to get that train running. As you can see, this is a very steep hill. It was not easy work. Every time they finally made it up this hill without fail, that fireman looked over at his engineer and he said, "Man, that hill's a son of a gun." And I'm sure you folks are wondering if we ever get rocks or boulders that fall onto our tracks. Sometimes we do. Just the other day, Bree and I were out here. She spotted a giant rock on the 2-seat side. Looked like it was getting ready to fall. Lucky for us, Bree's super strong. She lifted it up, but I kind of panicked. So I stuck 3 rocks under it to hopefully prop it in place. I hope it's still there. Okay, we're not e-braking. That's a great sign. On our 2-seat side, I'm assuming you can see our handiwork. We've called it Prop Rock. And it's coming up on our 3-seat side. You're going to see what remains of a fur trapper's cabin from back in the day. Doesn't look very good. That's because not too long ago, a rather fluffy bear climbed on top and he fell straight through. You could say the roof couldn't bear the weight. A little bit of a fixer-upper. Famous Halfway House Hotel used to stand. This hotel started off as a single-room cabin in 1882 that offered refreshments to hikers making their way up. And when the Cop Railway opened, we brought in some more business for them. So they decided to expand from 1 room to 22 rooms. They had a banquet hall, their own post office, their own train station. And don't ask me how on earth they got it leveled up for this, but they put in a single-lane bowling alley out here. Back in the day, you could enjoy all of that for just $10 a week. Unfortunately, for unknown reasons, most likely an insurance scam, it burned down in 1923. 3 years later, they came in to take out all the remains, everything except for a black and white sign on your 3-seat side that says Halfway House Hotel. That's where the hotel used to stand. We are now entering Ruxton Park, Colorado. Ruxton Park has a whopping population of 4. Electric plant this side of the Mississippi, built in 1906. Also on our 3-seat side, you'll see a White House. Not the White House, a White House. That's where a population of 4 resides here at Remsen Park. They're the caretakers for that hydroelectric plant. Cool thing about that house is it's made out of wood from the Halfway House Hotel. And if we look straight to the back on the 3-seat side, we'll see a stone building that kind of looks like a jail. That's the oldest hydroelectric plant west of the Mississippi. It's actually still functional and provides power to over 200 homes down in Manitou Springs. If you think that being a caretaker for the hydroelectric plant is your new dream job, I need you to be 2 things before you accept the job. First thing is a hydroelectric engineer, obviously, and the second thing is a Costco member. Reason being, on your 3-seat side, you're going to see a long red dirt road. That's the caretaker's driveway. It's only a leisurely 60, that's right, 60 miles into the nearest town, and you can't get DoorDash out here. I've tried. The whole train, especially me, really wants to see it. And I know you all noticed on your tickets that we do have a Colorado State Wildlife Viewing Tax. That's a new law we recently passed here in Colorado. Unfortunately, for every mule deer we see today, I have to charge you 25 cents. But if that mule deer has antlers, well, that's a buck. In Colorado, we call a clearing in the forest a park. Coming up on our 2-seat side, we have Deer Park, which is very appropriately named because that is the hotspot hangout for mule deer in the evening time. And if we look to the very back of Deer Park, we'll see some super tall ponderosa pine trees. Those guys are at least 80 years old, and the reason I know that is it takes that long to develop that cinnamon color in their bark. If you ever have the opportunity to, find a ponderosa pine tree one day and give it a big fat hug. Depending on how hydrated the tree is, the bark smells like vanilla and butterscotch. And it is so hard not to notice these gorgeous trees on the 3-seat side with the white trunks with little black dots that kind of look like cartoon eyeballs on them. Those are aspen trees. Colorado is very famous for them. Can you guess why? The higher up we go, the prettier these trees will get. For those of you that came for leaf peeping, you came at the right time. You might think we're passing about 100 aspen trees right now. We're actually only passing 1. A group of aspen trees like this is called a grove, which is a one-root system. It's the largest plant organism in the entire world, with the exception of fungus. And the largest aspen grove is on the Colorado-Utah border with 47,000. Couple of you guys? Alright, well, funnily enough, the guy who invented that mattress is actually the founder of this here railway. His name was Zalman Simmons, and he was from Kenosha, Wisconsin. He came here in the 1880s to hang up a telegraph system that he invented himself. But back then, there was not a good way to get up and down this mountain, so Mr. Simmons was forced to take a 3-day burro trip up and down the mountain. When he returned, he said that Pikes Peak was the most beautiful thing he's ever seen and that everybody should be able to see it once in their lifetime. But he also said that the burro trip he took was the most uncivilized thing he's ever done as a man. So he went back home to Wisconsin and he organized a big group of investors. Together they all raised $1.5 million. They came back here to Colorado to start construction on the railway in 1889, and the first passengers made it to the summit on June 30th, 1891. Does anyone want to shout out a guess for how much they think a train ticket cost back in 1891? I got 5 cents, 10 cents. All right, you would think it would be cents, right? In 1891, a ticket to ride this train cost you $5. That was incredibly expensive. In today's money, that's equivalent to over $165, and it stayed like that for over 50 years. And coming up on our 3-seat side, you're going to see one of our old passenger cars that's no longer in service. I don't know why. But they decided to cut it in half. They threw the other half out into the forest to rot away. But they kept this half right here because they wanted to modify it into a shelter for hikers in case they get caught in bad weather. Ute Nation called this mountain Tava Kava, which means Sun Mountain. And we've also found some evidence of Clovis culture here. We're sure they have their own name for this mountain as well. But seeing as those peoples existed thousands of years before the written language, we will never know what the first name for Pikes Peak was. In 1893, an English professor from Massachusetts named Catherine Lee Bates was teaching at Colorado College when she decided she wanted to take her carriage up Pikes Peak for a day trip. While she was up here, she was so awestruck by the views she could see through her carriage window that she began writing a poem. That poem became very popular. It was set to a piece of music called Materna, and we might know that same poem today as America the Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, on our three-seat side, I'd like to welcome you all to Inspiration Point. These are the views that inspired America the Beautiful.
Ven tequila, pásate aquí.
On a clear day, we have about 200 miles of visibility from this point. At the bottom of the mountains, you can just see the edge of Manitou Springs. That big pink thing down there is actually one of the rocks in Garden of the Gods. Sir, I need you out of that center aisle, please. Specifically, that's the Kissing Camels rock. That goes out into Colorado Springs. That darker area where all the trees are is Black Forest, Colorado, and all the way on the very, very edge of the horizon, drum roll please, is Kansas. Woo!
Creo que estamos a 14 millas de altura en este punto, o casi en este punto. Algo allá era como un lago. ¿Puedes ver el lago, nene? O una presa, no sé qué es. Es una presa.
Un lago natural. Una laguna.
On our three-seat side, we're now coming up on Lake Moraine. Lake Moraine is the only naturally occurring body of water that we have here in Pike National Forest. The other 9 bodies of water are all reservoirs. If you look very closely, you will see a dam down there that was only added a couple years back to try to increase the water volume. But like I said, that's a natural lake. It was created by a glacier from the last ice age. It's 46 feet deep and there are trout in there like you would not believe. But I am so sorry to my fishermen on board. That road you see down there is a private road.
Oh, te quise ver la bien, era. Esta que bien se me la el lago de ahí. No la agarraste, ¿verdad?
On our three-seat.
Mira, de aquí se ve bien el lago.
At the base of Calendar Mountain, you'll see a red dirt road in the trees. That's still the caretaker's driveway. Folks, car 2, I need you to stay
Montañas.
out of that center aisle. Will you return to your seating area, please? Sir in the green shirt, I need you to return to your seating area, please.
Así que es uno de los míos, te las comparto.
First one, restrooms. It's a long ride up, it's a very long ride back down. Let's make sure we use the restrooms while we can. Secondly, there is a wall in the gift shop with the words Helen Hunt Falls at the top. At the bottom of the wall are little boxes. I have no trash cans on this train. There are no trash cans outside on the summit. There used to be, that caused a giant bear problem. The only trash cans on Pikes Peak are inside the visitor center. Please be respectful of the wildlife. Throw away everything you need to inside that visitor center. And I need everyone to shout it out so I know I'm being clear. What I meant of that gust of wind was shattered into a bunch of pieces because of how strong it was. We have emerged from tree line. Tree line for Pikes Peak is down at 11,500 feet. And if you can't tell, that's where the trees stop growing. That happens because the low temperature and high altitude creates such a poor quality of soil that plant life has a really hard time surviving up here. The only type of vegetation that we see above tree line is Arctic tundra.
Todavía se ve el agua allá. Qué bonito. Valió la pena la vida.
Trail. The last time that carriage trail was used was 1902. The reason we're still able to see it is, as I mentioned, all that grassy area down there is Arctic tundra. Arctic tundra takes 100 years just to spread 1 inch. So we're going to see that trail for centuries more to come. That's also the same trail that Miss Catherine Lee Bates took back in 1893.
Los miraste, nena. Los miraste. Lo que dice. Oh, ese. Mira, vamos a subir hasta allá. Hasta allá vamos a subir.
Seguimos subiendo.
También. Ok, ahora sí. Ahí está el camino para llegar a
We are now coming up to an area we call the Saddle. The Saddle is the only place on the mountain, aside from the summit, that you can see completely to the east and completely to the west, simply by turning your heads. Coming up on our 2-seat side, you can see completely to the east. There's Colorado Springs out to Kansas one last time, in case you missed it at Inspiration Point.
Vamos a subir ahí. Ahí va la vía.
And on our 3-seat side, we can see completely to the west that beautiful faded mountain range out there of Price because of their orange color in the morning. That is actually the bottom of the Continental Divide. Those mountains are about 170 miles away.
Ya andamos casi en la mera cima de la montaña.
Deja ver si ya agarra, ¿ok? A ver si.
Y todavía se ve la única laguna o lago natural hecho por una, ¿cómo se llama? Por una gran zona de hielo que estaba formada hace muchos años.
for mountain goats. We have no mountain goats here, only sheep.
Ah, son varios inicios, ven casi.
Camuflajeo. Allá hay otra laguna, ya. Otra laguna, un lago grande, allá hay otro.
On our three-seat side, right above that golden aspen grove, you're going to notice a mountain that has absolutely no trees on it. It kind of looks like it's been excavated, like there are big steps going up the side. And if you look very close line, it first opened all the way back in 1890. Today, it's responsible for producing $1.237 million of gold every single day. That's about 30 pounds of gold. If you want to go check them out, they do have tours available. No free samples though. And just recently, they discovered a new vein of gold that they'll be mining for many, many years to come. Water seeps into the cracks of these rocks. Overnight, the temperature drops, so that water inside the rock freezes, it expands, and it breaks the rock open from the inside. And that process is happening over thousands and thousands of years, making the rocks smaller and smaller.
Yo creo que ya aquí arriba va a estar lo que para, ¿no? Que ya lo que nos hace.
Hands, but thank you. I know you're out there. You guys are going to like this next bit on our three-seat side. You're going to see a little tiny piece of flat land that kind of zigzags up the mountain. Oh, there we go. There's a car coming up right now. They are driving on the Pikes Peak Highway. This highway is 19 miles of switchbacks, 156 hairpin bends max. And if you look very closely, there are no guardrails on this highway. It'll take you over an hour to drive up to the top, and if that's not enough adrenaline for you, they hold a race every single year to see who can drive up the highway the fastest. I'm not kidding you, it's called the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. In 2018, I was lucky and I decided to drive up the highway to watch the race, and I got to see the fastest record ever being set. This record was set by a French driver named Romain Dumas, and he was originally a Porsche factory driver, but on this day he was driving a Volkswagen IDR, which was an experimental electric race car. Romain Dumas made it up that highway in 7 minutes and 57 seconds. When they had the race this June, I may or may not have snuck away from the train to talk to one of the drivers. This particular driver made it up the highway in 9 minutes. He said his top speed on that road was 130 miles per hour. Ooh, we got some yellow-bellied marmots on our three-seat side. They're the things that look like beavers in the rocks over there. They're getting ready to go into hibernation, so those guys are very hard to spot. If that highway looks familiar to you at all, that's because it's one of the shooting locations for the 7th Fast and Furious movie. Gwen, you said there was going to be 26% grade. I didn't lie to you, but it is the last hill we climbed. This is our steepest and our final hill today.
Ya la hicimos, ya llegamos hasta arriba. Ahora veo la razón por qué se puede subir, pues tienen granes la vía. Bueno, los dejo en este video. Nos vemos en el próximo. Sigan Frank el Aventurero en YouTube. Gracias.